Good morning, class 8. Before this, we studied about the wheel reduced friction. In that, we saw rolling friction, sliding friction. Now, the last topic of the chapter is that fluid friction. So, you know that air is very light and thin, yet it exerts frictional force on objects moving through it. Similarly, water and other liquid exert force of friction when object moves through them. So fluid friction means what? Fluid. So gas and water, these are the two fluids. They also exert frictional force. Then other liquid exert force of friction when object move through them. Means what? When the object moves through them, like fish move in water, birds and aeroplane move in air. So this is the object moving in the fluid like water and air. In science, common name of gases and liquid is a fluid. So in science, a fluid is known as gas and liquid. Whatever liquids are there and whatever gases are there, they are known as fluid. So we can say that fluid exert force of friction on object in motion through them. Means whatever objects are moving through them, like fish moving in water, birds moving in air. So these are the objects moving through them. Through them means through fluids like water and gas. So the frictional force exerted by fluid is also called as drag. Whatever the frictional force exerted by fluids, gases and water is also called as drag. Means these liquids shows frictional force. Friction you understood very well now. So frictional force means the fish moving in water, that is fluid, between water and object like fish, force is exerted and that force is called as drag. The frictional force of an object in a fluid depends on its speed. So the frictional force, it depends on the object's speed. So speed is the source obtaining frictional force with respect to the fluid. So the speed of the object depends with respect to the fluid for frictional force. The frictional force also depend on the shape of the object. So you know very well the shape of the bird, shape of the fish. They are cylindrical shape. And the nature of the fluid. So the shape is also shape also depends for the frictional force in the fluid. It is obvious that when objects move through fluid, they have to overcome friction acting on them. In this process, they lose energy. So in this process means in the friction between the fluid and object, the object loses energy. Efforts are therefore made to minimize friction. So objects are given special shapes. So the objects moving in the fluid, bird and fish, they are given the special shapes. So special shapes, you know, you studied about the shape of fish and birds. Where do you think scientists get hints for this special shapes? From nature. Of course, birds and fishes have to move above in fluid all the time. So the nature have given the shapes to the objects. Those are moving continuously in the fluid, that is gas and water. Their bodies must have evolved to shapes which would make them lose less energy in overcoming friction. So the shapes which are given to the object moving in the fluid by the nature is given as a thinking that they lose less energy. If they will lose a less energy, they will move more time in the fluids. You read about these shapes in class 6. Look carefully at the shape of an aeroplane shown in the figure. See, the figure is shown here about the aeroplane, the shape of the aeroplane you know very well, as well as the bird given here, and their shapes are given. Do you find any similarity in its shapes and that of the bird? Yes, both are having wings for moving in the air. In fact, all vehicles are designed to have shapes which reduce fluid friction. So also the vehicles moving on road, they are also designed the shape which they can reduce the fluid friction while moving in the air or in the water. So this was all about the friction in the chapter number 12, and in this way we completed chapter